හරිම සුළුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Wednesday the 18th of October 2023. Climate aid. President asks for more financial aid for more climate financing for low and middle income countries. Gaza update. At least 500 dead as a deadly explosion rocks a hospital in Gaza. IDF denies blame with video footage suggesting Islamic jihadists behind the attack. Second tranche in. Shehan Semasinga confirms that Sri Lanka is nearing a staff-level agreement to unlock the second tranche of the IMF bailout. Attack threat. Justice Minister forwards intel received about a possible attack to National Security Mechanism for scrutiny.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟම ඇති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to you from AdaDerana's English News First at 9. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our top story for the evening, starting with what's happening in Israel and Gaza. A hospital explosion in Gaza yesterday killed at least 500 people in one of the deadliest attacks since the war between Israel and Hamas militants escalated on the 7th of October following the Hamas provocation. With the Palestinians blaming Israel for the attacks, Israel's defense forces denied them, blaming the Islamic Jihad group for the misfire of a failed rocket launch, with video footage confirming the same. This was further proven when there was a notable lack of craters or any evidence confirming an Israeli air attack. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan ambassador in Israel, Nimal Bandara, says that measures are currently underway to repatriate 17 Sri Lankans near the Gaza Strip from Egypt. So far, the Israeli-Hamas war has claimed the lives of at least 4,800 people, injuring thousands. The Gaza Strip, currently under tension due to Israeli airstrikes as a result of the October 7th offensive initiated by Hamas, killing at least 1,300 Israelis, experienced one of its worst attacks as a massive explosion took place at a hospital in Gaza yesterday, killing hundreds of people. According to the Palestinian government, about 500 people have been killed by the explosion, with rescue workers in the process of recovering bodies from the rubble. Palestinians allege that the attack was launched by the Israeli Defense Forces. However, denying those claims, the Israeli Defense Forces produced a 30-second video today which shows that the deadly hospital blast in Gaza City could not have been the result of an Israeli airstrike. The footage presented by the IDF suggests that a fire broke out at the hospital as a result of a failed rocket launch by the Islamic Jihad group. The IDF added that there were no visible signs of craters or significant damage to buildings that would result from an airstrike. The attack led to the spark of protests in several countries in the Middle East and North Africa, which includes Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Tunisia and Turkey. So far, the death toll in Gaza since the escalation of tensions on October 7th has risen to at least 3,500. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus warned today that the situation in Gaza is spiraling out of control. In a next message, Tedros said that WHO's supplies have been stuck at the border for 4 days, adding that every second they wait to get medical aid in, they lose lives. He called for the violence on all sides to stop and immediate access to start delivering life-saving supplies to Gaza to commence. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has arrived in Tel Aviv to kick off an extraordinary high-stakes trip to Israel amidst protests following the deadly explosion at a Gaza hospital as Israeli and Palestinian officials trade accusations over who is to blame. With his visit, Biden seeks to demonstrate staunch support for Israel as it works to eliminate Hamas while also pressing for ways to ease humanitarian suffering in Gaza. During his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Biden said that the United States will continue to work with Israel and partners across the region to prevent more tragedy to innocent civilians. Concurrently, the Sri Lankan ambassador in Israel provided an update on Sri Lankans currently in Israel.
Today, there is a new development going on southern part of Lebanon. Therefore, the Israeli military forces are on alert due to the unfortunate situation going on southern Lebanon because the Hamas group already started some demonstration against some embassies in the Beirut and the southern area. Therefore, the Israeli forces is focusing those things. They are monitoring the upcoming demonstration as well as sometimes they will attack from the northern side to Israel. Therefore, the residences, they got the message from the Israeli forces and they are trying to relocate the people who are living nearby the Lebanon border. Even some Sri Lankan people are living northern part of the country, around 1,100 caregivers. Majority people are living in Haifa and the northern side of Israel. That means the southern part of the border. Therefore, we have given the advice from them to keep their attention around the clock regarding the new development, and also the embassies monitoring and updating those details to our caregivers and the Sri Lankan community living in Israel. Today, we were expected to receive the body of late Miss Anula Jayatilakar, but unfortunately, they informed that there are over 300 bodies available to identify for Sri Lanka and for other 36 countries. Therefore, it will take some time. Tomorrow also, we will communicate with the relevant agencies to get that body to identify. Many of Sri Lankan community members, which we discuss, are not happy to go back to Sri Lanka. Even for we didn't get any written request from them. 99% people are happy to continue their service in Israel in this difficult time. Ministry of Foreign Affairs requested regarding welfare facility of the people as well as people who are trying to go to the southern border via Gaza area, because the 17 members of 3 Sri Lankan families are living in the Gaza area. During the day before yesterday meeting, people highlighted in our Ramallah office, also the other ambassadors, we can take action to repatriate them through Egypt. Therefore, our embassy in Egypt is working on it. I think they will facilitate for those people who are presently in the Gaza southern border, and after getting the clearance, they can enter to Egypt, and later they can get some visa facility who are with the Palestinian passport. The passport holders can get the Sri Lankan visa and they can visit with their family.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe today emphasized the world's most biodiverse regions are found in tropical countries, where he proposed the launch of a dedicated program to support these nations in addressing future climate change challenges. President Wickremesinghe made these remarks during his address at the high-level conference Green Silk Road for Harmony with Nature, held at the China International Conference Hall today in conjunction with the 3rd Belt and Road Initiative International Forum.
At the 2021 Asia-Pacific High-Level Conference on Belt and Road Cooperation, Sri Lanka made a commitment to contribute to the Green Silk Road for Harmony with Nature. Though Sri Lanka's emissions are globally negligible, amounting to merely 0.03%. Our targets for 2030 is to achieve 14.5% reduction of G emissions, 70% of electricity generation through renewable resources, 32% of forest cover, weaning off of coal power by 2042, and reaching net zero by 2050. Sri Lanka is committed to 70% renewable energy generation by 2030 and achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. We are already in the process of implementing the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Agreement. If we are to overcome the climate crisis, Sri Lanka is of the view that we need an accelerated agenda for research and development leading to significant transformative changes to overcome the triple planetary crisis. That is not happening now. Therefore, Sri Lanka is initiating the establishment of the International Climate Change University, the ICCU, a central hub for addressing climate challenges, which will serve as a nexus for 1, interdisciplinary research, 2, knowledge dissemination, and 3, hands-on education. This university will advance climate change mitigation on multiple fronts. The ICCU will be dedicated to advancing knowledge, research, and solutions necessary to the global effort in limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are discussing with Maldives for the establishment of a small island center. The ICCU with Sri Lanka contribution, and we want to be in the vanguard of the global fight against climate change. As the economy stabilizes and in thinking of the future, we have decided and taken a decision to have a green transformation and a green economy. Now is an opportunity we have and we won't let go of it. Sri Lanka has numerous reservoirs built from about a hectare to as much as 300-400 hectares. Now this is energy which also, we have water which can also be used for solar panels. The wind power in our part of the country can even go up to about 40 to 60 gigawatts. So the potential is there for Sri Lanka to have a green economy. The government will be introducing laws to ensure the transformation to a green economy. At COP27, Sri Lanka launched its Climate Prosperity Plan. The Net Zero 2050 roadmap will be launched during COP28. The implementation of the Climate Prosperity Plan requires $26.5 billion up to 2030. The roadmap for carbon neutrality requires $100 billion till mid-century. These are very heavy burden for Sri Lanka, but we are determined somehow to ensure that we can mobilize the resources. But this is not the case in all countries. A number of countries are unable to find the necessary financial resources to fund the transition. Some of the least developed countries are not even qualified for private green finance. These are issues we have to address today. Therefore, we must formulate without delay concrete proposals for green financing and make these available to the country. This is a crucial year in many ways. It's for climate change. We have to mobilize the resources of the Belt and Road Initiative also to go ahead and to help these countries. This is why I say our proposals in that this field should include debt relief for low-income countries. Some may not be able to pay their debt at all. We have to remember that. 2, a window for concessionary financing for the middle-income countries. And 3, additional funding to be mobilized by multilateral banks such as AIIB. These are, if we do not address these issues this year, then I do not know whether we could even have another conference in 3-4 years' time.
Staying on the topic of the President at the BRI Forum, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that Sri Lanka hopes to see more initiatives being taken in the climate financing and Green Belt Road Initiative in the Third Belt and Road Initiative Forum currently held in Beijing. Joining an interview with the CGTN Network interview, President Wickremesinghe further said that Sri Lanka hopes to be a bridge connecting all regions in the world in the future. Meanwhile, President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with Vietnamese President Vo Van Thuong today during his visit in China.
How do you see you and your colleagues can be not only committed to goals, but also be able to deliver and demonstrate to the world?
Now we meet together and we have to agree on a course of action. I have no doubt on it. We have about 5 different areas. But this is the only body that has been meeting and producing some results. There are other bodies we meet, but in many cases we don't have results. So we must ensure that the Third Belt and Road Initiative will show definite results.
What are the definite results you are looking at?
I am basically looking at climate financing, the Green Belt and Road. That should be how Belt and Road becomes a more integrated system.
You seem to have a very big vision, Mr. President. You want Sri Lanka to be a bridge linking the whole areas together.
That's right.
But there are a lot of complexities of being a bridge, as you know that, sir, especially these days.
Yes, certainly. In a way, we are in a bridge breaking age, but then you still need the bridges, so let's build there and make Sri Lanka an area where people of whatever nationality or whatever country can come in and find a platform that is common to them.
Your central bank governor was earlier talking in details about RMB and the local currency in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
So how will this mechanism work?
We are going in for a multi-currency, or we can deal with multi-currencies, and it's acceptable here. We will not be tied down to one currency. I mean, that's a trend in our part of the world, especially with the coming of the BRICS, where we are looking at being able to reach out to a number of currencies, multi-currencies coming in from different parts.
Meanwhile, on the sidelines of the Third Belt and Road Forum in Beijing, President Ranil Wickremesinghe met Vietnamese President Vo Van Thuong. During the meetings, President Thuong has expressed Vietnam's willingness to serve as a bridge for enhancing relations between Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka, and emphasized Vietnam's commitment to strengthening economic, social and cultural ties between both nations. Further, the two nations agreed to formulate a comprehensive. Meanwhile, the Third Belt and Road Initiative commenced today in Beijing, where President Xi Jinping unveiled a plan to open financial windows of 350 million yuan for projects under the BRI.
On behalf of the Chinese government and Chinese, a warm welcome to you all. Belt and Road international cooperation has gotten off the ground, grown rapidly, and produced fruitful outcomes. We have endeavored to build, opening its door even wider to the world. In the next 5 years, that is 2024 to 2028, China's total trade in goods and services is expected to exceed $32 trillion. We will also step up joint efforts to ensure the safety of BRI projects and personnel.
Minister of Justice Dr. Vijaydas Rajpaksha turned heads today in Parliament when he provided an update on information he had received suggesting a possible security threat. In a cloak and dagger sequence of events, the minister related how the information had come by him. We will now switch to the parliamentary footage of the minister making this revelation for an update.
පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරයට සමාන තවත් ප්‍රහාරයක් එල්ල කරන්න සූදානමක් තියෙනවායි කියන කාරණය. මේක ඇත්තද නැත්තද දන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි මාධ්‍ය මගින් ප්‍රචාරය කරනවා මේක සුළු කොට තකන්නත් අපි හොඳ නැහැ. මේ තත්ත්වය මතුනේ මට පණිවිඩයක් ලැබුණා ගිය අගෝස්තු මාසේ 26 වෙනිදා. මහනුවර කටුගස්තොට පොලිසියේ සේවය කරන සබ් ඉන්ස්පෙක්ටර් කෙනෙක් උප පොලිස් පරීක්ෂකවරයෙක් තැන්න කුඹුර මාර්ග බාධකයේ හිටියා. ගිය අගෝස්තු 26 උදේ මේ තැන්න කුඹුර මාර්ග බාධකයේ මේ උප පොලිස් පරීක්ෂකවරයා ඉන්න වෙලාවේ පල්ලකැලේ අපේ වන්දනාගාර දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ බස් රථයක් මෙතනින් මාර්ග බාධකයේ හරහා යන්න ආවා. ඒ යන්න ආපු වෙලාවේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ස්ලෝ වෙනවනේ වේගය අඩු වුණ ගමන් මේ පොලිස් නිලධාරියට ලිපියක් දුන්නා. මගේ ලිපිය මා ළඟ තියෙනවා ඒකේ පිටපත. මේ පොලිස් නිලධාරියට ලියුමක් දීලා ඔහුට කියලා තියෙනවා මේ ලිපිය මට ලැබෙන්න සලස්සන්න කියලා. මගේ නම කියලා තමයි කියලා තිබුණේ. ඊට පස්සේ මේ පොලිස් නිලධාරියා මගේ අංකයට එදිනම ඒම අවස්ථාවේදීම දුරකථන ඇමතුමක් දුන්නා. එතකොට මේ ලිපියේ දීපු ගමන් තමයි පණිවිඩය දීලා තියෙන්නේ. පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරයට සම්බන්ධ සැකකාරයෝ 5 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා මේ පල්ලකැලේ ඔහු හිටපු සිරගෙදර. ඔවුන් දිගටම සාකච්ඡාවට කීපයක් පැවැත්තුවා. තවත් ප්‍රහාර කීපයක් එල්ල කරන්න පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ගංගාරාමේ පන්සල ගෙලෙම කීපයක් ස්ථාන කීපයක් සඳහන් කරා. දර මම ඒක ගෙනල්ලා ඒක ලැබුණ ගමම්ම අපිට මේ කිසිවක් සුළුවට තකන්නට බැරි නිසා පැහැදිලි උපදෙස් ලබා දුන්නා පොලිසියට බුද්ධ අංශයට මේ පිළිබඳව කටයුතු සොයලා බලලා අවශ්‍ය පියවර ලබා ගන්න කියලා ආරක්ෂක අංශවලයක වගකීමක්.
Later, discussions in Parliament were held on amending the country's electoral system.
අද දිනේ අපිව ආරාධනා කරලා තියෙනවා ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා විශේෂයෙන්ම ඍජු හා සමානුපාතික ක්‍රමයට മന്ത്രിවරුන් තෝරා ගැනීම සඳහා ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මැතිවරණ ක්‍රමය වෙනස් කිරීම ගැන සාකච්ඡාවකට. මේ මැතිවරණ ක්‍රම වෙනස් කරනවයි කියලා මේ ජනතාවගේ ඡන්දයිතිය උල්ලංඝනය කරන්නේ. අපි ඒකට ඊට දෙන්න බෑ. සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ අපි ඔබතුමා මේ ආරාධනා කරලා තිබෙන සාකච්ඡාවට අපි සහභාගී වෙන්නේ නැහැ. සත්භාවයෙන් ඔබතුමා ප්‍රකාශයක් කරනවා නම් මේ මැතිවරණ ක්‍රම සියල්ලක්ම සංශෝධනය කිරීම ජනාධිපති මැතිවරණයටයි මහ මැතිවරණයටයි පළාත් සභා මැතිවරණයටයි පසුව පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයටයි පසුව ඒක ක්‍රියාත්මක කරමු.
කිසිදු වෙන අදහසකින් නොව අපි සත්භාවයෙන් මේක ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න.
මම අහන්න කැමතියි ඔබතුමාගෙන් ඍජුව පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණය පැවැත්වීම සඳහා ඇයි මුදල් ලබා නොදෙන්නේ?
රට බංකොලොත් තත්ත්වයකට පත් වෙලා තිබුණු වෙලාවේ තමයි පළාත් පාලන ඡන්දේ ප්‍රකාශයටපත් උනේ. අපි ඡන්දේ අවලංගු කළා නැහැ. ඡන්දේ අවලංගු කරන්න කියලා මගේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු කාරක සභාවට ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂේ මන්ත්‍රීවරු වගේම විරුද්ධ පක්ෂේ මන්ත්‍රීලාත් ඇවිල්ලා ඉල්ලීම් කරා.
මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා ඒ උපදේශක කාරක සභාවේ කාර්ය සටහන් එසේ යෝජනා කරපු විපක්ෂයේ මන්ත්‍රීවරු කවුරුන්ද කියන එක මේ සභාවේ සභාගත කරා. ඔක්කොම කතා කරන්නේ සිස්ටම් චේන්ජ් ගැනනේ. සිස්ටම් චේන්ජ් එක එනකොට පයින් ගන්නවා. එතකොට ඒකට කවුරු හරි විරුද්ධ නම් ඒකේ මොකද අදහස් කරන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට තියෙන්න ඕනේ මේ දූෂිත ක්‍රමයම. කමක් නැහැ. ඒක ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී අයිතිය. හැබැයි අපි මේක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගේනවා කරු කතානායකතුමනි. ලාත් පාර්ලිමේන්තු මැතිවරණය තියන්නකෝ. ලොකු ටොක් ඕනේ නැහැ. මේකෙන් පුළුවන් ද මැතිවරණ කල් දාන්න. පාර්ලිමේන්තු මැතිවරණය නියමිතයි 2025 අගෝස්තු මාසේ. අවුරුදු දෙකකට ආසන්න කාලයක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ජනාධිපතිතුමාට අපි බලය දීලා තියෙනවා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඕන වෙලාවක විසිරවලා දාන්න. අපි දන්නේ නැහැ එතුමා මොකක් කරයිද කියලා. ඒ බලය දීලා තියෙන්නේ. පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරු විදියට අපිට තියෙන වගකීම තමයි රටේ ජනතාවට අවශ්‍ය නීතිය සම්පාදනය කරන්න. සමහරලාට මේ ගේන ක්‍රමේ ඔබතුමාට අවශ්‍ය වෙන්න පුළුවන් මට අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. කමක් නැහැ අපිට ගෙදරින්න පුළුවන් නේ. අපිම මේක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න ඕනේ කියලා නීතියක් නැහැනේ. අපි මේ ක්‍රමේ හදලා දුන්නට පස්සේ ඒකට සුදුසු අය ජනතාව තෝරගත්තා. දැන් අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ මේකයි ලබන අවුරුද්දේ ජනාධිපතිවරණය තියන්න ඕන. මොකද දින්නේ කෙනා පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසිරුවාරිනවා. and there will be election by November December. ඒකයි මිනිස්සු ඉල්ලන්නේ. අපි සූදානම් නෑ 2025 අගෝස්තු වෙනකන් ඉන්න. ජනතාව මැතිවරණයක් ඉල්ලන්නේ. ජනමතය විමසන්න. දැන් මේ නීති වෙනස් කරන්න ගිහිල්ලා මේක ව්‍යාකූල කළා මේක සංකීර්ණ කළා ප්‍රශ්න ඇති කරන්න එපා.
State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinga says that Sri Lanka is nearing a vital staff-level agreement with the International Monetary Fund to unlock the second tranche from the extended funding facility in a $2.9 billion bailout package. According to Bloomberg, Shehan Semasinga has stated that Sri Lanka is also assessing a debt restructuring terms from foreign holders of its dollar bonds. Unlocking the second tranche will help Sri Lanka secure approximately $330 million from the $2.9 billion package that was approved by the IMF in March of this year. On the bondholder proposal, the State Minister of Finance has stated that Sri Lanka's advisor, Lazard, will look at it and evaluate its comparability. While negotiations with the Official Creditor Committee are ongoing, Semasinga also mentioned that discussions with China are continuing and added that Sri Lanka's principle will be to be transparent and comparable. Welcome back. The Excise Department has stated that the issuing of soft liquor licenses for tourist hotels and restaurants has been temporarily suspended. The Additional Commissioner General of the Excise Department said the decision was taken following a court order. With that, here's a look at more news from across the island in brief.
The Kelaniya Division Criminal Investigation Bureau conducted a raid close to the intersection of the Ragama Road in Kadawatha last afternoon using an immediate roadblock. A live grenade was recovered from a motorcycle travelling from Kandy towards Colombo. A revolver and 4 live ammunitions were also recovered in the possession of the suspects. Both suspects were arrested by the police. Further, an individual was arrested by the Megahatena police station along with a live grenade and a firearm used by the security forces. Accordingly, police said that they found a live grenade, 9 rounds of pistol ammunition, 9 rounds of 12mm ammunitions and 153 bullets. In other news, a person who was reportedly transporting Kerala cannabis was arrested by the police in the Kilinochchi, Ganeshapuram area. The raid was carried out with the help of the police K9 unit. 2 assailants who arrived on a motorcycle last night opened fire near the main office of a privately owned rubber factory in Kirlapana. However, no casualties were reported following the incident. Police found 3 empty bullet shells near the factory's main gate. The motive behind the shooting was not yet revealed. However, further investigations into the matter are currently underway by the Kirlapana police.
Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira reassured of the local government's dedication towards achieving food security, highlighting the country's commitment to bolster the agricultural sector to combat future climate-related issues. Meanwhile, addressing the event, UN Resident Coordinator Marc-Andre Franche emphasized that the United Nations and Sri Lanka are jointly working towards the development of the agricultural sector to become more innovative in its use of water.
To mark the World Food Day 2023, an event jointly organized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, together with the International Fund for Agricultural Development and the United Nations World Food Programme, was held at the United Nations compound.
The FAO and UN Water Report, as well as the World Resource Institute's report, have classified Sri Lanka as highly water-stressed, reflecting the tremendous pressure on the nation's freshwater resources and their sustainability. We now have the science and the technology to produce more and better from less. We can reduce water use by using water wisely and by recycling. We can reduce agriculture's footprint by adopting a holistic and integrated approach to water management. We must adopt innovative, sustainable practices, particularly in agriculture and water management, to chart the path for Sri Lanka's future. We must understand that there is no trade-off between sustainable, climate-sensitive practices and economic growth. In fact, they are inextricably mixed and linked, and we have to embrace sustainable practices for the well-being of our people, the prosperity of our nation, and the preservation of our planet.
The UN in Sri Lanka is committed to supporting the agricultural sector to become more productive, innovative, adaptive, and efficient in its use of water. We recognize that small-scale farmers are a critical part of a sustainable solution. IFAD is helping enhance water and land management and helping smallholders adopt efficient irrigation methods like drip irrigation. And WFP is strengthening the dissemination and accessibility of weather-related information to help Sri Lanka build resilient and adaptive food systems. We must design evidence-based policies in a participatory and consensual manner to better plan and manage water in the agricultural sector. We must support these policies with increased investments, new legislation, improved technologies, and capacity development.
We can no longer afford to make
make minor tweaks to the way we work. What we need is transformational change. Change which not only treats the symptoms but also addresses the root causes of food. WFP supports the government in building resilient and adaptive food systems to achieve the SDGs.
It is our collective duty and the responsibility to provide the farmers in Sri Lanka with the support they require to fulfill their vital mission of boosting food production. We are actively working to build resilience into our agriculture sector so that farmers are less vulnerable to future climate-related shocks, and we stand firmly behind them in this endeavor. Our aim is to build a resilient, well-trained and innovative agricultural sector that will protect Sri Lanka from future crises.
The Colombo Stock Exchange closed lower today following losses in industrials and financial shares. The CSE's All-Share Index was down 0.85% to close at 10,557.16 points, while the S&P SL20 was down 1.08% to close at 2,941.08 points. Expo Lanka Holdings and Cargills were the top losers on the CSE, falling 1.5% and 2.4% respectively. Trading volume rose to 38.1 million shares from 31.5 million shares in the previous session. Equity market turnover fell to 822.6 million rupees from 994.2 million rupees in the previous session. The diversified financial sector was the top contributor to market turnover, while the capital goods sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 38.7 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers, purchasing shares worth 787.2 billion rupees. We now have Udishan Jonas from Capital Alliance with some thoughts on the current status of the economy of the country in our next segment, Sri Lanka's Economic Outlook.
The Treasury bill auctions were concluded today, where the 3-month Treasury bill rates fell by 34 basis points to 16.3%, while the 12-month Treasury bill rates fell by 8 basis points to 13.02%. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing the short-term interest rates coming down at a faster pace compared to the long-term bond rates or Treasury bond rates, which were holding at around 14 to 16% this week. Also, from a lending rate perspective, the average weighted prime lending rate fell by 30 basis points or 0.3% from 14.3% to 14% during last week. Also, from a fiscal perspective, the government of Sri Lanka reported tax revenues for the cumulative period January to July 2023. Tax revenues have increased by 43% for the cumulative 7 months compared to last year, reporting a total of 1.4 trillion rupees of tax revenues compared to the IMF full year target of 3.2 trillion for the full year. So Sri Lanka for the full year might fall in terms of its tax collections by about 300 to 400 billion rupees by the end of the year. Also, from an expense perspective, the government of Sri Lanka total expenses have also grown 40%, and that has been primarily driven by the increase in interest expenses as government's fiscal spending and the delay in terms of the interest rates coming down exerted pressure on keeping interest rates high during the first 7 months of 2023. Also, an important point to note is that Sri Lanka, which reported primary surplus up to the month of June, reported primary deficit by the month of July as capital expenditure increased roughly about 30% during the month of July. On an external perspective, the currency has been stable at about 324 rupees to the dollar on average, and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was also being able to buy dollars worth of $83 million during the month of September, which took its cumulative reserves total up to $3.5 billion, which looks like that Sri Lanka may fall short of its $4.4 billion target in terms of US dollar reserves by the end of the year. The good news is that Sri Lanka has reached preliminary debt restructuring agreement with Exim Bank of China. The details of it is unknown, but it shows that Sri Lanka is making progress towards its debt negotiations on the external front.
The rupee fare against its other major currencies around the world. Let's take a look. Welcome back. Sri Lanka's Senkadagala Finance has been downgraded by the Fitch Ratings in its latest rating reviews of the firm. With that, let's take a look at the corporate sector news of the day.
Fitch Ratings downgraded Sri Lanka-based Senkadagala Finance's national long-term rating to BBB from BBB+ with a stable outlook. Fitch also downgraded Senkadagala Finance's subordinated debt rating to BB+ from BBB- and removed the rating watch negative from all of its firm's ratings. Meanwhile, Singer Lanka said that Singer Business School Private Limited and Domus Lanka Private Limited, fully owned subsidiaries of Singer Lanka PLC, will be amalgamated with Singer Sri Lanka and continue as Singer Sri Lanka PLC. SBSE is in the business of providing educational services such as fashion designing, computer operations and vocational training, and DLP was incorporated to carry out the businesses of designing, manufacturing and trading of furniture. The firm said further announcement will be made subsequent to the completion of the amalgamation. In other news, the board of directors of Dip Products said the firm's executive director Giorgio Molinari resigned from the board with effect of 16th of October. The firm said he did not hold any shares in Dip Products as at the date of his resignation.
This is Jonathan Benedict. Have a blessed night and a good Thursday tomorrow.